Alright, now we're moving on to the Polskill Viaduct. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah,
Viaduct.
The Polskill Viaduct, also known as the Haynesburg Viaduct, is a reinforced concrete railroad bridge that crosses the Polskill in Knowlton Township, New Jersey. Once it was completed in 1910, it was known as the largest reinforced concrete structure in the world. It opened up to the public on Christmas Eve in 1911 and carried DL and W trains across until 1960, when the railroad merged with the Erie Railroad to form the Erie-Lackawanna Railroad. In turn, the EL train operated the cutoff until 1976, when the railroad was conveyed into Conrail, which was a primary Class I railroad between 1976 and 1999. The Conrail ran trains until 1979, where they then abandoned the line in 1982 and removed the tracks in 1984. The viaduct has now been an urban exploring spot for a while now, and trespassing only started to become more serious until recently due to criminal activity and vandalism. In fact, the viaduct is mainly known for its internal chambers, which is filled with graffiti and cool art. NJ Transit is currently working on restoring commuter service here, as they started construction on the cutoff and is slated to open in 2025. They have promised that the rest of the cutoff, including the Polskill Viaduct, will also be restored, hoping to travel passengers safely, possibly all the way to Scranton, Pennsylvania. But we will only have to wait and see.
I ended up going solo on this one, and boy was that a mistake. Once I finally reached the destination through my GPS, the road, which was called Station Road, was closed. I was seeing signs for a detour path, so I took that detour path all the way to the other side of Station Road, and that was also blocked off. So I found the nearest neighborhood, parked, walked over to where it said road closed, and then I started hearing a beeping behind me. And this car starts driving up to me, like slowing down more and more as it got up to me. They rolled down their window and was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I got my camera here and everything. I was just going for a little hike. Like, I wanted to get some cool photos and everything. He's like, no, I know why you're here. You want to know what else is behind that sign? Besides the viaduct? Cops. And I was like, oh, really? Like, they're here a lot? So I was like, oh, sheesh. And I didn't go back there.
I wouldn't go back there either. That guy was a savior, honestly. I mean,
yeah.
Who knows if cops are actually back there, but there probably was a good chance they were back there.
100%.
So.
Or they could have came when I was in there.
Exactly. They could have just, like, snuck up on you.
100%.
See what you were up to.
But, that brings up another place where it was kind of a fail as well.
Many say that the Iron Door was a part of a camp for Nazis, and others say it was for the Revolutionary War. Either way, Federal Hill itself contains plenty of history going way back to George Washington's army. The hill even had a different name back in the day, called Burnt Mountain. On March 27, 1781, General Howe ordered the execution of 2 ringleaders of a large mutiny at Federal Hill. In fact, the men were shot in the head and chest by 12 of the 200 soldiers that were part of the mutiny. There's also stone carvings all around Federal Hill near the Iron Door itself, including the names like B.M. Richards, A. Souza, and J. Rich. There's another legend stating that a man found a solid brass cannon, hid it under some stones, and would eventually want to come back and grab it to see if it was worth money. He does end up coming back for it, but can no longer find it. Some people still go up there to find it till this day. In the late 1930s, Germans moved up onto Federal Hill to start a Bund camp called the Bergwald, which means mountain forest. When Hitler came to power, the KKK actually went to the area and burned a cross in protest. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, the government stepped in and chased the Nazis out and found some ammunition and guns on the hill. In 1950, a fire actually started on the hill by 3 explosions, probably being caused by hidden black gunpowder. Nowadays, many people have reported chanting noises while inside the cave with the Iron Door closed late at night. There was even one night someone reported chanting that wasn't in English coming from the location. There was another lady who was dared to enter the cave. Once inside, her friends closed the door shut on her, not letting her out. She then started hearing noises as if someone else was talking to her in a different language that she could not make out.
We went to the Iron Door one day, and that was also a fail, because this was also a location that we went to back in the day.
We did it
when it wasn't gated up.
It was a lot of fun, good adventure.
It was a great adventure.
It was a good time. It was like just fun trying to find this spot. But sadly, we never found it.
There's coordinates online that you could look up, and it'll give you the exact location of the Iron Door. We crossed the train tracks. We remembered from back in the day where we had to make the left to go up the hill. It was all gated up, the entrance to this hill.
Couldn't get in. It was like, and to make matters worse, there were signs on it saying basically like, this is real, like we are really monitoring the area. And they had pictures on the fence of people that they caught.
Yes. I was so disappointed, and I looked it up afterwards, after that day, and apparently that property, it's a property now, private property, from some company. I don't remember the company's name or anything like that. Who even cares, because they're assholes anyway for blocking it up.
No one's gonna buy anything from them anyway. 2 trips were a bust.
Yeah, 2 trips were a bust. Where do we go now?
Where do we go now? Where do we go?
The stone living room was a creation of a mysterious race of stonemasons that remain anonymous to this day. When and why these stone chairs and tables were built, no one can say for sure. Some of the rocks weigh close to 400 pounds and must be lifted with some sick determination or heavy machinery. On August 26, 2001, a notebook was left there on one of the seats in a double-bag Ziploc, assuming to prevent water damage from rain or other things. Visitors would sign in and share their reflections on the hike, along with their experience on the hike trail and area. Some even left poetry in the notebook with their fellow travelers. Apparently there was a previous journal at the site that's no longer there, and even when we visited it, it was not there either. Weird New Jersey states that perhaps the book suffered a fiery death in the fireplace during a cold night and travelers had short supply of kindling.
We went in Pat's Ford Bronco.
Savage.
With the top down.
That's amazing.
The top down was on it. It was a beautiful ride there. There are 2 small parking lots for hikers, but it wasn't enough for the amount of people that were there that day. There was a lot of people there. There were several different trails we could go on, and we kind of had to make a guess of which one to start off traveling, which ended up being the Ocio Rock Trail, it was called. This was a steep hill to climb up of. And this was also back in April, so like it was hot out, but it was also still cool. We were wearing sweatpants and sweatshirts. Bro, them sweatshirts came off so quick as we were hiking up that hill. We were sweating to death, bro. Maybe about like 45 minutes to an hour, we finally made it to the top of the hill, and the views were incredible. The views isn't what we were there for though, because at the top of the mountain was the legendary stone living room. If I had to be honest, the stone living room was a lot smaller than the pictures make it seem to be, but it was still very cool. I did sit down on like the main, not the main seat, but like the middle seat of it. I will give a caution out there though. There was a lot of wasps there at the stone living room. I think there's hives in the cracks of the rocks that were seats and everything like that. So I took a little bit of a risk there with that. But yeah, man, it was really cool looking. It is interesting to think about who actually set that up, who put that together.
Who was building it? Like, who helped?
The website stated that the seats could fit like 24 people. Meanwhile, it could probably fit like exactly 12 people realistically. There is a stone fireplace right in the middle there.
Did you see the snakes?
Yes, we did. We saw one snake. It was a big snake, but I think it was like a garden. It was a big garden snake. It was black. But here's the weird thing though. We thought we heard rattling coming from it.
Really?
So we could have been totally wrong that it was a garden snake. But it was like sticking its head out of the crack of the rocks. But dude, it was really nice up there. We got great view shots, and We even ate up there too.
Oh, cool.
We got Wawa beforehand. We got up there, camped out for a little bit, and just ate.
Nice.
You know.
Back in 1972, before Six Flags Great Adventure opened in 1974, Warner Brothers opened up a safari-themed amusement park called the Jungle Habitat in West Milford, New Jersey. The park contained over 1,500 animals and consisted of both a drive-through section and a walk-through section. The walk-through section consisted of a petting zoo, camel and elephant rides, a reptile house, dolphin show, and even a Bugs Bunny and Friends live show. The drive-through section, on the other hand, was a completely different animal. Now, we all know how Six Flags Wild Safari used to allow you to drive your car through the area, and some animals were able to come up to your car like monkeys, giraffes, and ostriches. But at the Jungle Habitat, it was fair game for every animal to come up to your car, such as lions, tigers, and dare I say it, bears. These animals would climb atop and walk in front of cars, halting traffic to a complete stop. I believe it would also be worth mentioning that there was warning signs everywhere to keep your windows closed. But that didn't stop visitors from breaking the rules, causing a couple of incidents. For instance, on October 9th, 1972, an Israeli tourist went through the safari in a taxi and was attacked by a lion. And that was just the beginning. In November of 1972, 2 wolves escaped from their enclosure, but were caught before leaving the property. I would like to add that this is the only official report of animals escaping, but apparently the residents that lived nearby reported complaints of seeing wild animals in their own backyard. In December of 1972, television show host Jack Parr was fired due to roughhousing with a 6-month-old tiger cub while filming a TV special. And lastly, on July 8th, 1974, a woman was bitten by a baby elephant who had reached out of its enclosure, grabbing her with its trunk. She was ultimately paid $200,000 for her injuries. In the beginning, the park was initially profitable. However, business gradually declined as it failed to attract repeat business by not adding new attractions or changing old ones. In fact, Warner Brothers tried to fight this by proposing a $20 million expansion, which would have included 2 roller coasters, a carousel, log flume, along with other adult and kiddie rides. But the township's residents were divided on the proposed plan, and on November 2nd, it was heavily voted against. Following the vote, Warner Brothers decided to close the park for good, having its last days on Halloween weekend in 1976. Unfortunately, that didn't stop more stories from coming out about the place. In 1977, several of the park animals had contracted tuberculosis and was euthanized. Newspapers started reporting several animal carcasses, including an elephant that has been left there to decay. For years after it closed, stories have gone around that there are still animals lurking on this property, which has led to urban explorers like myself to check out the park. Nowadays, the abandoned park has been used as a state park for hikers, bikers, and more. West Milford also used the property to host 4th of July celebrations and annual mountain bike races in recent years. Needless to say, the Jungle Habitat lived a short 4 years being an active amusement park. But even now after its close, the legend lives on.
Me, Pat, and Dan went there, and there was a bunch of cars parked there. And it's cool because this is another one of those legal places that you could go to. It's even next to an airstrip where planes were landing and taking off at. You have to walk down this one long road for a little bit until you reach this, dude, when I tell you huge, like huge abandoned parking lot.
Okay.
Grass
Now,
growing
could you
in
park there
spots.
if you wanted to, like to hike?
No, because there is a gate. There at the entrance, there's a gate there. You could pass the gate, but
Like
it's
you could walk past.
you could walk past it.
drive.
You can't drive through there. They don't want cars through there in that area, yeah. There's several trails all around the parking lot, all around the sides of the parking lot. So we really didn't know where to go at first. So in the beginning, we couldn't find anything. And it started to get me worried that we drove 2 hours for nothing.
Yeah.
But we were seeing a bunch of birdhouses all over the place. Like a whole bunch of birdhouses were above us from time to time during different trails and everything like that. They were scattered throughout the
Really?
whole place. But finally, we found the wooden stick entrance to whatever it led to. It was really cool. It wasn't bamboo, it was all wood, but it was definitely an entrance to something.
Okay.
We found a couple of destroyed gate enclosures where we assume they kept animals for the public to pet and feed. We also found this pool enclosure, which we assumed they had either penguins or like seals or something. It was a small pool, but it was still cool to look at. Graffiti all over that as well along the walls of it.
Yeah.
Along with that, we saw a bunch of rubble from a building, either that has been torn down or just naturally broke away. We also came across this concrete ring on the ground, which I suggested was one of those circus animal shows, like with a bear or something like that. Like that, what they would do back in the day. They don't do that shit anymore.
Well, where they would jump through a hoop or something.
They would jump through a hoop, or like the bear is like riding a unicycle or something like that. But what we all really wanted to find was the main entrance of the park. It was 2 tunnels that lead you into the entrance. But we did eventually find it.
Oh,
we did, yes.
Okay.
It was really cool looking, very ugly looking, to be honest with you. Like, I couldn't believe that was like the main entrance of the park.
Really?
Like,
It was
almost
like a letdown kind of.
not a letdown. It was really cool looking. But like, say that the park was still open and that's what you were walking through. It's like, all right, this is kind of like
I got you.
weird. Like, it wasn't like fancy looking or
It's like a
anything
first
like that.
impression. Like you see that and it's like,
It's like, where am I going?
yeah, it's like, why am I doing it?
Yeah, exactly. So, after that, we figured we saw everything that we could find. So after like 3 hours of hiking around the place, we decided to leave. And that was the jungle habitat.
Oh, don't I look nice? Batting my eyes, isn't it pure perfection? Cute, think I'm polite, stereotype, got your full attention. Things that you can play with me, you better watch your back. The last thing that you hear would be my laugh. Cause baby dolls kill, don't provoke us or we will push you downhill. Might be pretty but we're still bitter as much as we're sweet. Knife hidden under the sheets, baby dolls kill. Don't provoke us or we will go. Heels made out of steel, how does it feel to be walked all over? Nails leaving a trail, kind of pigtails, blood drips down your shoulder.